Two scenes, same day, same planet, two completely different realities that just shattered everything Trump thought he knew about power. Scene 1. Donald Trump stands before White House reporters, hands waving dismissively. "We don't need Canada," he declares with that familiar bluster. "They need us. We don't need their cars. We don't need their products. It's irrelevant to me." Scene 2. Beijing Capital International Airport. Mark Carney's plane touches down. Red carpets unfurled with military precision. Senior Communist Party officials, not junior diplomats, but genuine power brokers, stand waiting on the tarmac. This is the reception China reserves for major world powers. The symbolism slaps you in the face. Canada matters. Deal with it. And somewhere in the Oval Office, you can practically hear Trump's world cracking apart. The assumption that just exploded. Here's the thing Trump doesn't want you to understand. His entire playbook for the past 8 years has rested on one bedrock assumption, one fact so obvious it never needed questioning. Canada has nowhere else to go. Think about what that meant. When Trump threatened tariffs, Canada had to fold. When he demanded trade concessions, Ottawa had to comply. When he treated Canadian leaders like subordinates, they had to absorb it with a smile. Why? Because 75% of Canadian exports went to one destination, the United States. That wasn't diplomacy, that was hostage-taking dressed up as negotiation. And it worked brilliantly. Trump weaponized Canadian dependence during his first term, extracting concessions on dairy, on automotive rules, on regulatory harmonization. Every single demand backed by the implicit threat, comply or watch your economy collapse. But watch Trump now when Canada comes up. Really watch him. The hand gestures aren't confident anymore. They're defensive. The rhetoric isn't dominance. It's barely contained panic. "We don't need Canada product," he insists with unusual vehemence, not normal emphasis, desperate emphasis. That's not a man secure in his leverage. That's a man watching his trump card, pun intended, dissolve in real time. Beijing's power play that changes everything. Let's decode what actually happened in Beijing, because the media is missing the nuclear implications. China didn't just welcome Carney, they elevated him. State-level treatment normally reserved for leaders of major powers, official statements emphasizing a fundamental reset in bilateral relations, presidential attention from Xi Jinping himself. This wasn't courtesy, this was calculated geopolitical warfare. Because here's what China understands that apparently escaped Trump. In 2025, the most valuable commodity in international relations isn't military might or GDP size, it's reliability, predictability, the ability to make agreements and actually honor them. Trump spent 8 years teaching the world that American promises are worthless, that treaties are suggestions, that today's ally is tomorrow's target for economic warfare based purely on his mood that morning. China is now offering the world an alternative, and they're using Canada as the demonstration project. "Look," Beijing is signaling to every middle power watching, "align with us instead of that chaos. We honor agreements, we build partnerships. We don't wake up and randomly threaten allies on social media." The red carpet for Carney wasn't about Canada. It was a message to every country watching American reliability collapse under Trump's leadership. The moment Trump realized he lost control. Here's the tell that reveals everything: Trump's defensiveness. When a narcissist insists loudly that something doesn't matter to them, they're screaming the opposite. Every dismissive hand wave, every claim that he doesn't care about Canada, every assertion that America doesn't need Canadian products, it's all psychological compensation for a terrifying realization. He's losing leverage in real time, and he cannot stop it. Because Trump's leverage over Canada depended entirely on Canada having nowhere else to turn economically. As long as Ottawa had nowhere else to turn economically, Washington could extract whatever concessions it wanted through threats and economic coercion. That world just ended, and Trump knows it. Europe has re-engaged with Canada. Asian markets are opening systematically. And now China,
Trump's self-declared primary strategic competitor is rolling out red carpets and offering partnerships. Mark Carney isn't just threatening to diversify as a negotiating tactic, he's actually doing it, building concrete alternatives through real diplomatic initiatives and economic partnerships. And once a country has genuine alternatives, intimidation stops working, threats become noise, ultimatums become invitations to walk away. Trump built his entire foreign policy on coercion, and Carney just rendered coercion obsolete.
Now here's where this goes from concerning to absolutely catastrophic for American interest. During Carney's Beijing visit, one topic is dominating closed-door discussions: electric vehicles and automotive manufacturing. China isn't interested in just selling EVs to Canada as finished products. Beijing wants something far more explosive: manufacturing facilities on Canadian soil. Picture this: Chinese technology, Chinese capital, Chinese manufacturing efficiency, Canadian resources, Canadian skilled workers, state-of-the-art battery production facilities, all of it sitting right across the border from the largest automotive market in the world. The implications are staggering. Tens of thousands of Canadian manufacturing jobs in the technology defining the industry's future. Canada transforming from automotive periphery to global EV hub. Cheaper, superior electric vehicles flooding into North American markets at prices American manufacturers cannot possibly match. But here's the dimension that explains Trump's visible panic. Those Chinese-designed, Canadian-built electric vehicles would sit mere hours from every major American city: Detroit, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, all accessible by truck or rail in less time than current domestic shipping. They would compete directly with American automotive production on price because Chinese manufacturing efficiency creates cost advantages that U.S. companies cannot overcome without massive subsidies. They would compete on technology because American manufacturers have spent a decade trying and failing to match Chinese EV innovation. They would compete on scale because Chinese industrial capacity, backed by coordinated state planning, dwarfs anything American companies can mobilize. This isn't hypothetical competition. This is the potential economic devastation of America's automotive industry, already struggling, already falling behind, already dependent on protectionist measures to survive. And it would all be happening legally under existing trade agreements because the manufacturing is Canadian, even if the technology and capital are Chinese. Trump understands this scenario perfectly. It's why he's lashing out. It's why the dismissiveness sounds increasingly desperate. It's why he keeps insisting America doesn't need Canadian cars, because he's terrified of the cars Canada is about to build with China's help. The agricultural leverage Trump can't counter. But wait, it gets worse for Trump's strategic position. Simultaneously with EV discussions, Carney's team is pushing hard on agricultural trade. Canadian farmers have suffered for years under Chinese tariffs that devastated canola exports, seafood, pork, sectors employing hundreds of thousands of people. For years, Ottawa had limited options beyond hoping tensions would ease. That era is over. Now, China recognizes Canada has alternatives, and Canada recognizes it doesn't need to negotiate from desperation anymore. Both sides can walk away if terms aren't mutually acceptable. Watch what happens when even incremental progress occurs on canola market access. It sends a signal that reverberates far beyond agriculture. Canada can push back against unfavorable treatments successfully. Every Canadian success in diversifying trade is another nail in the coffin of Trump's leverage, another proof point that American pressure is no longer irresistible, another demonstration that saying no to Washington doesn't mean economic catastrophe. And Trump, watching from Washington, can do absolutely nothing except rage and dismiss and insist it doesn't matter, while everyone can see clearly it does. The structural shift Trump cannot reverse. Here's what makes this moment genuinely historic. This isn't about Canada choosing sides in US-China competition. This isn't about abandoning the American alliance. This is about ending structural vulnerability. For generations, literally since World War II, Canada's economic structure left it dangerously exposed to American political volatility.
When Washington applied pressure, Canadian pressure faced severely constrained options. Canadian exporters depended overwhelmingly on U.S. markets. Canadian manufacturers relied on cross-border supply chains. Canadian resource producers sold primarily to American buyers. That dependence meant when American administrations demanded concessions, whether justified or purely theatrical, Canada had no realistic choice but to comply or absorb devastating economic costs. Trump exploited this reality ruthlessly. Tariff threats, trade agreement ultimatums, public humiliation of Canadian leaders, and it worked because Canada was trapped. Mark Carney is systematically dismantling that trap, not by replacing the United States as Canada's primary partner. That's economically irrational and practically impossible, but by ensuring Canada is never again so completely dependent that saying no becomes impossible, regardless of how unreasonable American demands become. He's building what military strategists call strategic depth: multiple fallback positions, alternative supply lines, diversified partnerships that provide genuine options rather than imaginary negotiating leverage. A country with options can negotiate from strength. A country with alternatives can resist pressure effectively. A country with diversified partnerships can walk away from bad deals. That's what Trump is actually watching collapse: the assumption that Canada has no choice but to accept whatever terms America dictates.
And here's the beautiful irony that Trump apparently cannot grasp. His own tactics are accelerating Canada's diversification. Every threat pushes Canadian policymakers to build alternatives faster. Every unpredictable policy reversal convinces Ottawa that depending on American reliability is strategic suicide. Every public dismissal of Canadian significance motivates Carney to prove Canada has options. Trump's playbook, intimidation, threats, chaos, unpredictability, only works when the target has nowhere to go, when alternatives don't exist. But when alternatives do exist, that same playbook becomes catastrophically counterproductive. It doesn't generate compliance, it generates exit strategies. European leaders watch Trump's chaos and offer Canada stable partnerships. Asian markets watch American unreliability and open doors to Canadian exports. China watches Trump dismiss allies and rolls out red carpets for Canadian prime ministers. Trump is inadvertently creating the very alternatives that destroy his leverage. His solution? More threats, more dismissiveness, more insistence that Canada doesn't matter. It's like watching someone pour gasoline on a fire while insisting fires aren't hot. The red carpet that broke Trump's world. So let's return to those two scenes: Trump waving dismissively, Carney walking on red carpets. One leader commands the world's largest economy and most powerful military. The other leads a middle power with a fraction of American population in GDP. But which leader is negotiating from strength right now? Which leader has alternatives? Which leader can credibly walk away? Beijing's reception already answered those questions. The red carpet, the senior officials, the presidential attention, the emphasis on fundamental reset, every detail communicated one message: Canada has strategic value. Canada has options. Canada matters. Trump can declare Canadian irrelevance until his voice gives out. He can insist America doesn't need Canadian products. He can wave his hands dismissively and claim he doesn't care. But the world is responding with actions that reveal his rhetoric as desperate self-delusion. Europe is deepening partnerships with Ottawa. Asian markets are opening to Canadian exports. China is offering manufacturing partnerships that could transform North American automotive dynamics. Every single development represents leverage draining away from Washington. Every diversified partnership reduces American ability to coerce compliance. Every alternative makes Canadian resistance more viable. The trajectory Trump cannot stop. And here's the genuinely explosive part: this is irreversible. Trump cannot threaten Canada into abandoning Chinese partnerships. That would only prove Carney's point about needing diversification. He cannot offer better terms without admitting his whole strategy was counterproductive.
He cannot reverse course without looking weak to his base. He's strategically checkmated by his own rhetoric and tactics. The question isn't whether Canada matters to global strategic calculations. Beijing's red carpet already answered that. European re-engagement answered that. Asian market opening answered that. The question is whether American leadership will recognize the new reality before permanent damage occurs, or whether Trump will continue waving dismissively while allies discover they have options, partners discover American reliability is worthless, and leverage evaporates like morning fog. Based on Beijing this week, that discovery is already well advanced. Trump stood before reporters insisting Canada is irrelevant. Carney walked on red carpets in the world's second-largest economy. The contrast isn't just optics, it's the visible manifestation of power shifting in real time. And no amount of dismissive hand-waving from the Oval Office can reverse what's already in motion. The world is adjusting. Partnerships are forming. Alternatives are materializing. Trump's leverage is dying, and his own tactics are writing the eulogy.